I was in my living room around 10 a.m. The morning was clear and sunny. Since I was trying to get a permanent position at the university, I went to learn about a second refusal they sent me. I was greatly distressed with an immense feeling of depression and loss of hope for my future. I then decided to write down a kind of legacy listing the failures of my life. At the moment when I took my paper and pen, I was inspired to write a poem that seemed like it was dictated to me. But I didn't hear any audible voice as everything happened in the form of internal thought. I had the feeling to discover my own poem while writing it down, as if I didn't know what I was going to write. The poem was about the nostalgia of love. I had a strong desire to cry but held it back. Then I had several times the thought, God is calling you, in an insistent way. It was as if this thought was something like a message that was sent to me. I didn't produce this thought consciously. However, this seemed totally absurd to me, as I was a declared atheist and philosophically close to Nietzsche and to the death of God. I was also an avid reader of Arthur Schopenhauer and Sigmund Freud. I resisted this thought and refused to accept it. I turned my face in thought behind me, and was immediately projected in a black well, forming a tunnel with stones of a regular shape, very dense and compact. Almost immediately I felt a vertical movement without knowing if it went up or down, and all the stones transformed into light. I found myself in the middle of a light of an inconceivable intensity. Compared with this light, the sun when looking it in the face looks like a weak electrical light bulb. This light was of a total transparency, to the point that normal light seemed dense and compact in comparison. Because of my feeling I knew without the smallest doubt that this light was God, while I was an atheist, in the same way as you don't doubt the existence of the sun when you receive its beams. I couldn't reason intellectually anymore, I only sensed things. This light was loving me with unconditional love and it wasn't judging me. It made me totally transparent for myself, I saw the truth about myself without being able to lie to myself. I saw my life scrolling with an inconceivable speed, like thumbing through a book in a few seconds. I didn't even have time to stop and meditate on each of the events, but I had the impression that everything was listed, it was like a row of photos parading on a line. Trying to justify for the love that I received from the light, I tried to highlight my good deeds, diverse charities, and I saw that each time, the deep motive of my action solely had been one of pride. This motive kept coming up continually, even with the good things I had done. I was then immediately convinced that there was even not one single atom of love in myself, to the contrary of this light in which I was, even though it was at the same time in me and around myself. Considering myself in my own eyes as unworthy, I then took like a step back, even though the notion of space where I found myself had no sense, to voluntarily leave the light, to regain consciousness in the real world. Then I started to cry about all of my past life until then without love, and immediately wrote down a second inspired poem describing my experience and which was talking about God's love present in every one of us. Psychologically and directly after this moment, I had many contradictory feelings. I had the terrible impression that my life had been scanned and that I had failed a test of validity, and on the other hand I sensed the peace of the love I got in the light. I had the impression that I had been receiving the knowledge of everything that exists without being able to express it with words and concepts. I immediately consulted my bookcase and my books of philosophy and had the impression that all the thinkers were trying to talk about this light without being able to really reach this. I had the impression that it was at the foundation of everything without being expressible through thoughts and words.